Hello everybody, this is Mr. Laubach. Thanks for joining me here. In this video, we are going to break down the key elements of the American Revolutionary War. We are going to go through the 6 most important battles of the war in chronological order. These battles shaped the future of the United States and the course of history. But before we jump into the battles, let's briefly discuss the advantages and disadvantages faced by both sides during the war. Now, when the war began, the British had several clear advantages. They had the most powerful military in the world, well-trained, well-funded, and a strong navy. This allowed them to blockade American ports and transport troops quickly across the Atlantic. They also had access to significant resources from the British Empire, and they were able to hire mercenaries like the Hessians to bolster their forces. On top of that, many loyalists, these were American colonies who remained loyal to the crown during the war, supported the British effort, particularly in the South. However, the British also faced significant disadvantages. Fighting a war across the ocean presented logistical challenges, and coordinating strategies and supplies took time. British commanders often struggled with unclear or conflicting orders from leadership in London. The war was also costly, and the longer it dragged on, the more unpopular it became back in Britain. Finally, the British struggled to win the hearts and minds of the American population, often underestimating the determination of the patriots and the vast, difficult terrain of the colonies. Now, on the other side, the American colonies were at a disadvantage in terms of resources. They had a smaller, less experienced military and lacked a formal navy in the early years of the war. They also faced internal division, as not all colonists supported independence. However, the Americans had key advantages too. They were fighting on home turf, home field advantage, which allowed them to use guerrilla tactics, avoiding large-scale confrontations where the British could use their superior numbers. Additionally, the Patriots were deeply motivated by their fight for independence, a cause that united them and fueled their resilience. The Americans also benefited greatly from foreign support, especially from France, which provided vital military aid, supplies, and naval power after the Battle of Saratoga, which we'll learn a little bit more about soon. Without France, it's unlikely the colonies would have won the war, especially in key moments like the siege of Yorktown. So let's talk battles. Our story begins on April 19th, 1775, with the Battle of Lexington and Concord. This was the moment that lit the spark of the Revolution. Often called the shot heard round the world, these battles marked the first armed conflict between the British troops and American colonists. Tensions had been building for years, and on that fateful day, the fight for American independence officially began. British troops had planned to seize colonial military supplies, but the Patriots had other plans. The clash set the stage for what was to come. Just 2 months later, on June 17, 1775, we arrive at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now, despite the name, most of the fighting actually took place on nearby Breed's Hill. The British won this battle, but it came at a huge cost. They suffered casualties, meaning injuries or death, to over 1,000 men. For the Americans, this battle showed that their militia could stand up to British regulars, or redcoats, even though they were less experienced. It was certainly a moral victory, and it gave the colonists hope that they could actually win this war. Now let's fast forward to the end of 1776. Earlier in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was issued, and the official United States name became a thing. At the end of 76, the war wasn't going well for the Americans. Morale was low and enlistments were dropping. But then came George Washington's daring surprise attack, the Battle of Trenton, on December 26, 1776. In the dead of night, after crossing the icy Delaware River on Christmas, here's an iconic image of it, Washington led his troops to capture a garrison of Hessian mercenaries. This victory didn't just save Washington's army, it revived the spirit of the Revolution. Now let's move to one of the biggest turning points of the war, the Battle of Saratoga, fought between September and October of 1777. This was a crucial victory for the Americans, led by General Horatio Gates. The British, under General Burgoyne, had hoped to cut off New England from the rest of the colonies, but they were forced to surrender after being surrounded. Why is this battle so important? Well, it convinced France to officially join the war on the American side. The war raged on for a few more years, and by 1780, the southern colonies had become a hotbed of conflict. One of the key victories for the Americans in the South was the Battle of Kings Mountain on October 7, 1780. Here, Patriot militias defeated a Loyalist force in South Carolina. This victory disrupted British plans to control the southern colonies and marked the beginning of the end for British dominance in the South. Finally, we arrive at the most decisive battle of the entire war, the Siege of Yorktown. From September 28 to October 19, 1781, General George Washington, with French support, laid siege to British General Cornwallis's forces. Surrounded by land and sea, Cornwallis had no choice but to surrender. This defeat signaled the end of the major fighting in the Revolutionary War and led directly to peace negotiations in Paris. Now, the surrender at Yorktown didn't immediately end the war, but it effectively sealed the fate of the British rule in the colonies. After years of bloodshed and hardship, America's path to independence was all but secured. This would happen, of course, officially by the Treaty of Paris, 1783. So, a quick recap. Lexington and Concord is where the war begins. The Battle of Bunker Hill was a costly British win, but a morale boost for the colonists. The Battle of Trenton, Washington's daring Christmas attack that revived the cause for the Patriots. The Battle of Saratoga, the turning point that brought France into the war. Kings Mountain in the South, it was a crucial victory in that region. Of course, the Siege of Yorktown, the final blow that ended the major fighting. So I hope you learned more about the key battles of the Revolutionary War and what some of the advantages and disadvantages of each side were. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.